Okay, now we're going to look at dividing decimals by a decimal number. First thing I want to do is apologize for the first tutorial I did, dividing decimals by a whole number. I misspelt number. I forgot the B, and it was like a whole numer. Just in case you were wondering, it is actually a number that we're dealing with, not a numer. So let's move on to now dividing decimals by a decimal number. And I've corrected the spelling. So if we take a question like, let's go 12 decimal 8 divided by 3 decimal 4. All right? What we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing as we did when we were just dividing decimals by a whole number. We're going to write this in the long division form. So we'll take our dividend first. We'll go 12 decimal 8. And then we're going to do our long division sign, and we'll write 3 decimal 4 here. Now, when we're dividing decimals by a decimal number, in our divisor, we don't want to have a decimal. We want to have it as a whole number. And so what we do, all we do is we take this decimal and we just move it over one place, or we move it over until it gets to a point where it's now a whole number. So this 3 decimal 4 is now 34. All right? And because I did it here, I moved it over one place to the right in my divisor. In my dividend, I have to move it over one place to the right as well. So now I have 34 divided into, or 34 goes into 128. And I'm going to put my decimal up here, so we know that that's where my decimal goes in the answer. So now I look at this question as if it's 34 going into 128. Well, actually, no, 34, yeah, into 128. So I start the process. I ask myself, how many times does 34 go into 1? It doesn't. So I move over here, and I say, well, how many times does 34 go into 12? Because 12 is still smaller than 34, it's not going to go into 12. So now I have to ask myself, well, how many times does 34 go into 128? Now this is where I play a guessing game. And I know if I look at this, I'm going to guess this. First of all, 34, if I go 30, 34 is about 30, and 30 times 4 is 120. That's close to 128. So if I just practice, let me just try this over here. If I say 34 goes into 128 4 times, this is just a guessing method now. I'm just going to guess this out, and I'm going to go, well, 4 times 4 is 16. And 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 is 136. So it's close, but it goes over, so 4 is too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, 34 goes into 128 3 times. And I'll just erase this and try doing the math again. I'll go 34 times 3. I know this is where I'm just scratching my workout, right? 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1, carry my 1 over. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So my answer here is 102. So I write down 102 here, and I subtract. All right, and 8 take away 2 is blah, 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 6. All right. And 2 take away 0 is 2. 1 take away 1 is 1. So we have 26. All right? But now I want to just add a 0 here because I got to take it to 2 decimal places, right? So I'm going to bring down a 0, and I'm going to look at this as if it's 260. All right? So 34 into 260. Well, if 34 into 100, like if 34 times 3 is 102, what if we did 34 times 6? All right, well, 6 times 4, I'm just guessing here. 6 times 4 is 24, carry my 2. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 2 is 20. 204, well, that's close, but maybe I can get even closer. So what if I went, I'll use over here, what if I went 34 times, let me try 8. All right? See how close that gets me. So 4 times 8 is 32. Put my 2 down, carry my 3. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 3 is 27. Rats. So 6 is too small, 8 is too big. Then I'm left with 7. All right? And I go 34 times 7 equals 7 times 4 is 28. Carry my 2. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 2 is 23. So we have 238. So I write 238 down here. And I do my subtraction. And okay, I got to borrow here, so I get 5. 10 take away 8 is 2. 5 take away 3 is 2. And then I'm left with 0. Okay, so I have 22. And now I can add another 0 up here because I'm still only at 1 decimal. I got to take it to at least 2. So I'm going to go down and bring my 0 down here and treat it as if it's 220. Now, I already have some samples here. And if I look at 34 times 6, that's 204. And 34 times 7 is 238. So this is the one that I'm going to use to get to 220. So I know that 34 goes into 220 6 times. And my answer here is 204. All right. And so if I do my subtraction, I have to borrow. 10 take away 4 is 6. 1 take away 0 is 1. So 16. So actually, I mean, if I wasn't dealing in decimals, this would be like with a remainder of 16. But I'm just going to ignore that. My answer, 12 decimal 8 divided by 3 decimal 4, is 3 decimal 76. Now, that's not the exact answer, but that's as close as we're going to get because I don't want to just keep dividing until I get to 0 at the end. All right, so 3 decimal 76 is my answer.